Hey guys, join me today for a draw with me and Q&A combo. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Jade and I'm a part-time digital artist and illustrator. If you're in the art community, you may have heard of or have participated in Inktober, Artober, or whatever prompt list you have seen. These are art challenges that normally take place in October, but due to a lot of reasons I wasn't able to complete the prompt list that I had chosen during October. But I'm still persevering and trying to finish it as I had some fun ideas for the drawings. So I'm personally doing my own prompt list this year, like I've been doing the last couple of years. It's called Spelltober and it has 12 prompts across the 31 days of October, instead of the normal 1 prompt a day format. I chose to make a list myself as I feel it's easier for me, especially as 12 drawings in a month is a lot more manageable than 31, which I think you can all agree. For this year's Spelltober, I managed to get 4 full drawings done and 2 sketches before I burn out. But in my defence, life has been a little chaotic and I was working on a Halloween spooky update for my shop. Even though I did try to prepare more this year by sketching out some of my ideas beforehand, it still didn't help to get the drawings done in October. This drawing that I'm doing today is for the 5th prompt, and the prompt called Vampire, which you may have already worked out as you can see the start of my drawing. Okay, so how did I start? I started off by working out what kind of vampire character I was going to draw. I've always wanted to draw the characters from Monster High for a long time as it was one of my favourite shows from when I was younger. I've always said I was Monster High instead of Barbie. So more of a Frankenstein girl who can take a hand off rather than a perfect princess. So I decided to draw Draculara for this prompt. For who haven't watched or heard of Monster High, Draculara is a 16,000-year-old vampire and the daughter of Dracula. She is a ghoul at Monster High and a hopeless romantic who wears her heart on her sleeve, or in this case, her cheek. Once I had decided who I was going to draw, I started to sketch out some ideas until I landed on this perspective pose. I was actually really happy when I found a perspective pose reference that worked for Draculara. I really find dynamic perspective poses fun to draw and a good challenge of anatomy and line work. So I recommend that if you're struggling with art block or just want a challenge, try drawing characters in more perspective or dynamic poses. And with that, let's get into some of the questions you guys asked me on my socials. And if you ever want to be a part of asking the questions, make sure to follow me on Instagram, as I will usually do a question box on my story before the video. So the first one is a big question. How has your day been going? Thank you for asking. I'm okay, today's been okay too. I've mainly just been keeping myself busy with my real life job and drawing. Lately though, I've been dealing with a lot which has been a bit chaotic, so my art has in turn taken a bit of a backseat. But the last week I've really been able to take some time to process what I've needed to instead of distracting myself like I usually do. Which this has really helped me to be able to find the motivation to pick up my pen and tablet again, whilst also being able to pick myself up during these winter months. So I'm definitely going to be taking that into the new year and make sure that I'm listening to my body and taking breaks when it's needed. So, if this is a reminder you need, remember to take a break, hydrate yourself, even put on a movie, and take some time away from your daily life so that you can relax and stop the burnout. When did you start drawing? I've been drawing for the majority of my life. From the minute I was able to hold a pencil, my art journey began. And it's been a very up and down journey since then, especially during my school years, as I just never had any time to draw and really felt that my art wasn't good enough. But over the last few years, I've really tried to make time for my art and have tried to experiment more with it. When I was in college, I had so much more time to create, which did really help me to experiment and work out where I wanted to focus and take my art, especially as I was then creating every day with different mediums and styles. But in terms of digital art, I've really only been doing it for 3 years now. It started when I got an iPad and saw a lot of artists using Procreate, so I downloaded it and never looked back. And since then my art has really changed and evolved so much more, especially when talking about my colours and character faces. I have really enjoyed creating digital art over the years, more than traditional methods such as paints, pencils or graphite. But I can say that I will never, ever stop drawing and doodling traditionally, as it is my time to draw for myself and not the algorithm, which to be honest I feel a lot of artists can get caught up in nowadays, especially when we are trying to share our art or promote it. but I'm fortunate that I found doodling and drawing with my paint pens is a great way to keep my ideas flowing, more so when I'm observing my surroundings. Which actually leads me on to the next question. Where do you get inspiration from your art from? This is a really good question. The simple answer would be games and cartoons from when I was younger, mainly Zelda and Adventure Time. I also, like many other artists, take inspiration from artists that I like and their art style. The main show for me of this is my overall way of drawing. When I started digital art, I thought that I could only draw with line art, but this just wasn't an option for me, as I've never been able to understand or build the skills that are needed to get consistent line art. Also, my perfectionist side would come out every time I attempted it, which then made me stress out and not want to continue drawing. But this all changed as soon as I found a new artist who used lineless art in their art style. This was the turning point for my art, and it is the best thing that works for me, even if it can be a bit difficult at times. But the main part of my inspiration behind my art is just simply my surroundings and the media that I consume on a daily basis. You know, it's crazy when you look back at your old art and notice really big differences, and my biggest difference with my art 3 years ago to now is the fact that my characters didn't have eyes back then and they do now. I find it really ironic sometimes because I used to hate drawing eyes and I never understood how to do it, whereas now they are one of my absolute favourite parts to customise and draw on a drawing. And this year I've really tried to play around with my eyes a little bit more, especially with more the pupils and adding sparkles. Like with my Carlac drawing that I done back in October, I added little flames in her eyes because she is fireborn, so it kind of added to her character more, and it's a little bit of a smaller detail that maybe people won't notice, but I love adding things like that. But it is crazy when you look back at your old art and notice the biggest differences. And when I started drawing eyes, it wasn't even like I'd practiced loads. One day it just clicked. I went from not being able to draw eyes at all to then figuring it out and being able to learn how to do it better and develop it over time. And I was literally just doodling some characters. It was a 6-character fan art, the first one I'd done, and I was just doodling in my sketchbook, drawing it out, and I just started to draw eyes and faces on my characters, and from that day on I started drawing eyes on my characters, and it's crazy. It's even like I done a redraw of my original character Jade. The first time that I drew her back in 2021, I redrew that in my style now. And her character and my style are so different. You can clearly see the development on rendering and character and confidence in poses and facial expressions, and the fact that she now has a face and eyes and her hair isn't covering it. But I do still have a long way to go. But now I'm happy that I can draw eyes and that they are my favourite part of a drawing. Are you proud of your art journey? Yes and no. There are times when I love my art and times when I absolutely hate it. It's an artist's curse. But one thing that I do know for sure is that if you showed little 10-year-old me the art that I create now, she would be absolutely amazed that our art went from not even being able to draw people normally to drawing full rendered characters and occasional backgrounds. Over the years, my art journey has been up and down, as I mentioned before. Purely because I took a long couple of years break from drawing due to schoolwork and my passion for drawing being hidden by my personal life. But when I realised that art is a great medium to express your feelings and distract you from the world around you, I started to give it more time and attention. So, overall, yes, I am proud of the progress that my art has made since I started drawing, especially since knowing that little me would be proud too, which is one of the things that keeps me motivated to keep creating art. What is one thing that you really want to improve in? I could actually give you 1,000,001 things, both to do with myself and my art. But if I had to choose just one thing that I want to improve in my art, it would be my backgrounds. I want to be able to feel more comfortable drawing backgrounds and with putting characters in a scene rather than just putting a colour blocked background. Granted, sometimes character drawings do work better with a colour blocked or simple background, but it would be fun to experiment around with backgrounds more so I can feel more confident with them, especially with putting characters more in an environment rather than doing a character portrait and putting a background behind them. However, if I had to choose one thing to improve in myself, it would be my mindset with drawing. Over the past year, I have tried to be more aware of when I compare myself to other artists, especially those who have a lot more time to create or have been drawing for a longer amount of time, as this can really stunt my art and make me feel demotivated to create. But even though I feel that this year I've dropped the idea that my art isn't good enough, I still have a long way to go with not comparing myself and starting to love my art for what it is. What's your favourite colour palettes to work with? I actually have quite a few. I love to work with any colour really. I don't particularly like to work with reds and oranges, which is ironic because red is my favourite colour. But if I had to pick a specific palette, it would be more pinks, blues and purples, like the colours that I've got surrounding my original character Jade. I really do like that colour palette, and the colours just work really well together as they are harmonious colours. But I would say that I do kind of like working with all colours and colour palettes and experimenting with how different colours work, especially with when you start to look into complementary colours and the whole colour theory. I also do like working with blues and greens, especially with backgrounds. Like in my Viper piece, I really enjoyed working with the greens of her outfit and adding little essences of blue in there, and then the blue of the sky and stuff like that. But overall, I don't really have a favourite colour palette because I like just working with all colours. My favourite thing to do though is to work in grayscale and only use 5 different grey colours and then change that into a specific colour palette that only has 5 colours in it. It's a really good way to challenge myself to work out form and shapes and how to be able to create a full piece with only using a certain amount of colours. So I recommend, if you do want a challenge one day, to just work with a specified amount of colours and then create a piece off of that, as it really does challenge your brain to be able to think about how to do it differently, especially if you do lineless art over line art. So try it out, you never know. What program do you use? I use Procreate. It's a purely digital art app that is on iOS. I find it so easy to use and it really gives me the room to develop and grow my art further. I first started digital art on Photoshop, but I found that personally Procreate worked better for me to create full rendered art pieces. Even though I do still use Photoshop in my day-to-day life, especially with my product photos for my shop. I find with Procreate, one of the good things is the variety of brushes that you can have and how easy it is to customize them. Since I've had Procreate, I've found and bought so many brushes by other artists. Some are lettering brushes, some are stamp brushes of trees and stars, and some are even just texture brushes. I especially like that I can create my own brushes on there and how easy it is to do that or to modify other brushes. It's like with the brush that I use, it's a customized brush that doesn't come with a program that I found from another artist. I love using it for both my sketching and my actual drawing. It's such an easy brush to control and it's great for creating my kind of art, as I like to have block colours and not too textured ones. Why do you draw? I love this question. There are so many reasons. It's a good distraction from the noise in my head, it gives me a way to express my creativity, and it's just something that I've always done. It's also helped that throughout my whole life I've always had creative people around me, especially people who drew. My dad was a great inspiration to me in terms of my drawing when I was younger, as he taught me a lot about art, and it amazed me that he was able to draw and shade with pencils so well. And I think a lot of my metal work now in my art comes from him, as he mainly drew cars, which was absolutely crazy because he was able to draw a car from memory and get it perfect without one single reference. Something I aspire to be able to do one day. Hands are an artist's eternal struggle. I feel like we can all agree that they are one of the hardest things to draw on a character, and if you can draw hands confidently, that is some sort of talent and skill that we all aspire to have. I feel like over the last couple of years I am slowly starting to get better at them. Still not great, but I at least know how to render them better and know the planes of a hand, especially with these perspective and dynamic poses that I've done this year. It's really challenged me to understand how shadows lay on a hand and how the best way to shade it is, because when I look back at my old art, my hands are not very good. But I feel like even though I still do have a long way to go, they are getting better. But it is an artist's eternal struggle. So, do you have original characters? Yes, I do. I have, at the moment, 3 original characters. I have my character Jade, who is the first one that I designed, and she was originally based off of me, but now she's her own character. I have my second character, who is called Soraya. She is a siren mermaid. I made her design back in May 2023 during the Mermaid Art Challenge prompt list that I had made for myself, and when I drew her I really liked her design, so I made her into an original character. I built her into the storyline that I was developing, and then my third character that I drew and I have is named Osiris. He is a half dragon human hybrid, and I made him back in October last year during my Spelltober drawing prompt list. The intention of drawing him was to be Jade's love interest and to also be a part of the second group, because I eventually want to have 6 original characters who are split into 2 groups, one being Jade and her friends and the other being Osiris and his friends. I'm currently working on the next character who will be one of Jade's friends, so that will complete Jade's group, as Soraya is a part of Jade's group, and then I have just Osiris's friends to make. But I am really excited to start working on them, as I've been kind of planning it through the year, but I just have not had the time to sit down and draw them. I'm also planning on doing loads of character sheets, so character turnarounds and their likes and dislikes, so I can get a little bit more of a solid idea of who they are and what their story is. But I absolutely love creating original characters and having a story behind them. I really like with my original characters where they have a unique story, and that is mainly that half of them grew up in a human world and half of them grew up in a hybrid world, and those 6 friends are the only people who can shift between human and hybrid. So for example, with my original character Jade, she was brought up in the hybrid world where she was half skeleton, which if you see her character design, especially in the redraw that I did in October, she has skeleton horns and a skeleton tail, and that was her hybrid side, but she prefers to sit in her human side because of her backstory and where she comes from. Do you have a favourite go-to art snack? Yeah, I would say absolutely. I will always have some form of chocolate. However, in the summers I will often have fruit, but chocolate is the main thing that stays around the whole year. My preference for chocolate is dark chocolate. It is the best and most superior type of chocolate. Let me know what type of chocolate you prefer, because everyone is different and I love people's opinions on it, which chocolate people like, whether it's dark, milk or white. It's just interesting to know people's preferences. For the background on this drawing, I really had no intention or direction of what I wanted to do. I kind of just went into it with an idea for the pose, but not an idea for the background, which sometimes isn't the best way to do a drawing, because then you get to the point of where I was at with drawing the background and you're stuck. So there was a lot of trial and error. I've only shown you 2 of the trial and errors I had, but there was a lot. I first tried a circle on the background, which I kind of wanted to do to match it to other perspective poses that I'd done in this past year, but it really didn't work with the pose and I couldn't get the colours right. I did try a green, because green and pink do really work well together, but I just feel like it didn't give the drawing the look that I wanted, so that idea didn't work. The next idea that I tried was more of a gradient, so a lighter colour going into a darker colour, which is also what I'd done for one of my past perspective poses as well. So I kind of tried that, but I tried it in pink tones and purple tones at first, and it just did not work because Draculara really blended into the background and got lost in it. So as you will see when you see the final drawing, I did more of a blue and green, and that really made her stand out from the background but also blend in with it enough that it just created a cohesive and nice drawing. I also added some little bats and stars around her so that it gave more interest to the background, and I'm really happy with the outcome that I eventually got after a lot, and I mean a lot, of trial and error. The last things that I will always add to my drawing are 3 separate layers. One is a bright pink, one is a bright royal blue, and one is a bright orange. Once I have added these, I will change the blending mode to soft light and put each of them to about 8 to 15%. I do this as it really brings the drawing to life and changes the colour and makes the colours pop a little bit more, and it adds that softness that I have always aspired to have in my art. And that's the drawing finished. Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this draw with me, feel free to leave a like or comment and subscribe to keep up to date with my future videos. Have a good rest of your day. Bye!